Go now, dear family member, and may the Night Mother wrap you in her cold, loving embrace.
Oh, Shiva. You're always the best Argonian in this game. LeChance says it's time to purge, so... Hail Sithis! Hi, I'm Sam, and welcome to Late to the Party, a new look at old media. And today, we're going to be doing something slightly different. With the recent remaster of Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, I thought it'd be fun to take an additional look back at this wonderfully clunky masterpiece. I say additional because my very first video on YouTube was actually a review of Oblivion, and if you'd like to see how my own channel has evolved throughout the years, it's worth a look back at too. Go out, grab a rusty dagger, crank that difficulty slider all the way up, and stab a mud crab a few thousand times. Voila, you're suddenly a samurai. The game was sort of infamous for this design. Well, that and being a meme.
Stop right there, criminal scum! Nobody breaks the law on my watch!
My history with Oblivion is actually pretty unique, as I honestly picked it up by pure accident, because back in 2006, there was another game I was dying to get my hands on, and another game that's on my ever-growing list of games I want to cover on this channel. And that was the original BioShock. And when I went to Target to try to find a copy, it was actually my dad that noticed a box next to it that not only included BioShock, but Oblivion as well, and for the same price as BioShock alone, mind you. My dad figured that even if I ended up hating this game I'd never heard of, free $99 was a price that was way too good to pass up.
You are a cold-blooded killer, capable of taking life without mercy or remorse. The Night Mother has been watching, and she is most pleased.
And after I put in a fair amount of hours into BioShock, I figured it was time to at least try Oblivion. And at first, it seemed promising, but soon, like apparently many people, I was confused by the game's frankly broken leveling system, and I honestly kind of got bored. Then again, I was like 12 at the time, and this was to be expected.
Do you have a death wish? Trust me, you don't want to try that again.
So after putting it down for a while in favor of BioShock with themes I was way too young to fully grasp at the time, the disc stayed within its case for a couple of months before I gave it another shot, because even if it confused me, the sheer scale of it still intrigued me. And with a little bit more focus this time around, I ended up deleting my character and starting completely over, but this time I made an Argonian character, which I still default to this day because I personally find them and their traits the most useful. Plus, my love for Godzilla just made me want to play as a giant lizard person. Anyway, as I played this time around, no longer concerned with Andrew Ryan or Big Daddies tailing me, I sort of started grasping how the level system worked a bit better, and because I didn't rush my character build this time, I leveled up more frequently, which in turn led to newer enemy types, new weapons, higher rated gear, and more quest lines to actually get engaged in. I'll admit, at the time, most RPGs really weren't my thing. I do like a number of them now, but back in 2006, my little pre-teen self didn't really have the attention span for them yet. Oblivion, ironically for how broken it is, changed that. I started understanding how character builds worked, how specific races were more attuned to specific skills, and how getting involved with a world that generally seemed to have a history behind it sucked me further and further in.
Get out of here while you can.
It also helped that early on into my second playthrough, I stumbled upon a character called Umbra in what seemed to me to just be another random dungeon. I bring this up because up to that point, while I was still in the early stages of understanding just exactly how the game mechanics worked, all I could find for my Argonian was either steel or leather armor, low-level rusty crap that you could find in a sewer, nothing special. Meantime, I run into this mostly docile person wearing this exotic armor I've never seen, and with a badass sword and shield to match it. So, being a free-roaming RPG with freedom of choice, I took it upon myself that I needed this gear, not realizing at the time that Umbra was one of, if not the most powerful character in the entire game. So, after about 30 or so reloads, my low-leveled ass finally managed to cheese the system enough to defeat this warrior and take all of her lovely armor. It was only much, much later that I discovered that Umbra, along with her identically named sword, were part of a quest line for a Daedric prince, one of the old gods who's worshipped by a number of people in this world. Not having discovered this quest line yet, and frankly being far too underleveled to even have it activate in the first place, I equipped all this gear and kept it equipped for the majority of the rest of that campaign. Even if the leveling system was still a little confusing for me, it helped having a ludicrously powerful, soul-stealing sword handy at any given moment. And honestly, stories like this are what made me fall in love with this game. The leveling system, physics, and sometimes even the dialogue are in some way broken or unpolished. But that's why Oblivion is often called a beautifully broken masterpiece. It somehow, with all its flaws, finds this perfect balance between game-breaking and enjoyment without taking away too much from the genuinely interesting plotline happening. In exploring the world, you'll often find Oblivion gates within spitting distance of each other or directly outside towns or villages, and you'll be constantly reminded that, hey, portals to hell popping up everywhere probably isn't a good thing, as badass as they are. The plains of Oblivion might scream death metal and a perfect place to level up, but when demons and Daedra start popping up in the cabbage fields, no one's gonna have a good time.
Makes you wonder about the competence of the guard, if you ask me.
When the remaster of Oblivion was shadow dropped by Bethesda the other day, I, along with a number of other people, were left with the same question. How much of the jank would still be left in this game? How can you improve upon a game for being enjoyable because of its brokenness? How many well-known exploits and glitches would be left in or patched out? Well, in playing the remaster and watching interviews with both the developers and the voice cast, I realized that this was a remaster produced by fans for fans. It's been nearly 20 years since the original was released on the 7th console generation, and much of the world and gaming community has changed during that period. Trends have come and gone, game mechanics have evolved and become the new standard, and focus on player engagement has become more important than ever. Even so, I'm happy to report that most of the original glitches, exploits, and memeable moments still remain here.
You should not be here, mortal! Your blood is forfeit! Your flesh is mine!
I was initially hesitant because while the remaster is very, very pretty, I was worried that improving as much as the devs did, it might be, in a sense, too much of an improvement and take away from the heart of the original and unintentionally alienate players who may have grown up with it in favor of the newer generation who very well might have never even touched the original. I'm very happy to say that this isn't the case here. The quality of life improvements such as the sprint option and more streamlined leveling system are actually really welcome changes to the dated mechanics, something that if it wasn't addressed at all could potentially leave newer players also confused.
Really? Do come in. It's lovely in the Isles right now. Perfect time for a visit.
The new voiceovers that have been implemented also really help. In the original, similar to just about every other Bethesda release around that time, there were about 4 voice actors total for about a dozen or so characters each. And no matter how big the world ended up being, it always sounded like you were talking to the same few people. With a simple addition of more distinct voices, it makes the world feel that much more grand in scale, especially when it comes to the more animalistic races, such as the cat-like Khajiit or the previously mentioned lizard-like Argonians.
Greetings, brother. Greetings. I am Oshiva, mistress of this sanctuary.
Of course, though, the best, more memorable voice actors are still here. Wes Johnson still brings his memorable charm to all of his roles, such as the arena announcer, Lucien LaChance, or the meme-heavy Lord Sheer-Gorath.
Shame he's dead. These things happen.
And hearing Sir Patrick Stewart as the Emperor or Sean Bean as Brother Martin add their own sense of gravitas and gravity to their characters always sucks me back into the heavy plot every time.
Find him and close shut the jaws of Oblivion.
Gameplay-wise, while I didn't think the third-person mode worked well for anything other than exploration in the original, here it's treated as a genuine option for players. While Skyrim generally improved the third person's playability, and Elder Scrolls Online is basically tailor-made for it, it wasn't really quite there yet back in 2006. It worked well if you were outdoors and wanted to look around at your character, but if you ever got into a tight area or, God forbid, combat, it quickly could become vomit-inducing. And while I'll admit, I still prefer first-person mode, third-person is quite enjoyable to witness here. Because the camera is much more forgiving, you're able to appreciate the new animations a lot more, and combat has evolved from being static and almost robotic to smooth and satisfying to watch. The sounds of combat have changed as well. Spells all have unique element-based audio effects, making each one feel different. Each weapon has weight behind it when you hear it swung, and every blow dealt sounds like you're actually doing a lot of punishment to your opponent's body. It all serves to make the old combat feel fresh and epic while maintaining the core elements of the original. And I know I just mentioned this, but god damn is this game pretty. I've already caught myself just sitting in place for a few moments and gazing upon my surroundings. The environments all feel like characters unto themselves. The forest paths feel like a serene grand adventure. Dungeons seem damp, deep, and dark. The city feels alive and bustling, and the plains of Oblivion bleed with a sense of foreboding. This is one of those rare instances where I truly believe that better graphics equal a generally better experience overall.
You have not yet recovered any proof of my birth. Please, friend, make haste. This waiting about is torture. I know in my heart who I am.
There's been a handful of video game remakes over the years that have been upgraded in similar ways to Oblivion, but at least for me, have never actually surpassed their original versions. Here, even after my hundreds of hours over these past 19 years, I can honestly say, I think the Oblivion remake is a better overall experience.
Yeah. Good people, we have a winner.
The remake is upgraded in pretty much every sense of the word. Its graphics and new sound design, combined with the more detailed yet easy to understand interface, blend into a perfect balance of sort that results in a world that feels both like a love letter to the original and an encouraging welcome to new and old players alike. Something that understood itself and leaned into the fan enjoyment, as silly or serious as it ever wanted to be. Something that manages to feel familiar, but still simultaneously contains its own identity.
You stand now in our sanctuary. May it serve as your new home, a place of comfort and security whenever the need arises.
The classic Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion will always have a special place in my heart. I discovered it by pure chance, learned how to get around its exploits and its mechanics, and I'm still discovering new things about it to this day. Mods and challenge runs have kept the gameplay enjoyable, and well-known glitches over time have given the game its own clunky sense of charm. The remake of Oblivion only served to make all these aspects more endearing, and I'm sure to spend a lot more time within this game adventuring away.
Here's your take. Now go clean yourself up.
Hey, Doodle Sammy here. I just want to say thank you all for watching. If you're new to this channel, this video is slightly different from what I usually do, but I honestly couldn't resist taking another deep dive into Oblivion, considering the not-so-surprised shadow drop of the remake just the other day. If you happen to enjoy my take on things, consider checking out my other videos, like this one on Max Payne and his road to redemption through his own substance abuse, or this one on The Beginner's Guide, the little-known Stanley Parable follow-up that explores how we as players personalize video games and media in general. I'm proud of both of them, and I'd love to hear what you think on them as well. And hey, if you really want to help me get that much closer to having my dream job and not having to drag my non-animated self back to my real job, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. Thanks guys, and remember, if you're late to the party, it's still going on, so you might as well enjoy yourself. I'll see you next time.